Thank you, Chair. The EFF wishes to send their condolences to the families of the 11 pupils killed in an accident involving private scholar transport in Western Gauteng this past week. Chairperson, the EFF believes that the different transport modes and systems like road, rail, air, and sea play a significant role in connecting places, ensuring the efficient movement of people, goods, and economic activities. Hence, the provision of an efficient, affordable, safe, and easily accessible public transport is critical for the development of South African economy and the integration of the region and the continent. But the reality is that the South African public transport system is unsafe and inaccessible to a greater extent in rural areas. It is expensive and even more so for people living with disabilities. The minibus taxis with their limitations are the most accessible, although not for people with disabilities, the most common and flexible mode of transport. But they are also expensive and unsafe for commuters who are constantly exposed to the volatile violence caused by fights over routes and other issues. The reality is that those most affected by violence and infighting between associations in Alexandra, Umtata, between Border and Ncedo Association, Umhlabula Lingana, and other parts of the country are workers with no alternative form of transport. The associations in Tembisa and Kempton Park and many parts of the country harass motorists and illegally hijack them under the false pretense of enforcing laws that they do not have. If it is not violence, it is roadworthy minibus taxis. The government recapitalization program has completely failed. In 2020, the EFF proposed that the taxi recapitalization program be scrapped and that concerted efforts, including funds, be redirected to the formalization of the industry. Instead, the government continues with its inefficiency and subsidizes a mode that caters for only 20% of public transport users and neglects the one that serves 80% of the labor workforce, which is the backbone of our country's economy. The 2024-2025 annual performance plan and the proposed budget presented to the committee by the Department of Transport does not make any provision for the subsidization of minibus taxis. Yet the then Minister, Fikile Mbalula, had set the implementation date of the taxi subsidy as the 1st of April 2021. The annual performance plan is notably silent on the universal access, particularly for people living with disabilities. Despite the commitment made in 2021 APP to urgently address the issue of access to transport for special needs passengers. The Department of Transport, in collaboration with the Department of Education, has persistently failed to prioritize scholar transport to ensure not only the safety of young learners and pupils, but also that they regularly attend school on time and in a conducive manner. Earlier this year, thousands of pupils were left stranded due to a failure to provide transport. And to this day, many children still have to walk long distances to get to school, exposing them to violent criminals. Many still have to cross dangerous overflowing rivers to get to school. A decrease in funding and a lack of investment in public scholar transport increased the emergence of illegal private scholar transport, which overloads vehicles and disregards the safety of our learners by driving unroadworthy vehicles. Speaker, over 60 million people live in South Africa, with more than 3.3 million individuals identified as living with disabilities of being differently abled. 30 years since the dawn of democracy, we believe it is unacceptable and alarming that persons with disabilities are still discriminated against and have barriers to accessing basic living activities. One of the key barriers and perpetuations of exclusion, which the government is implicit in, is the inaccessibility of transport for people with disabilities, because the inability to access transport causes a ripple effect, as it means one is further excluded from healthcare, education, employment, etc. While South Africa has a legislation such as the Promotion of Equality and Prevention of Unfair Discrimination Act and the White Paper on the Provision of Integrated Public Transport of 2007, the willingness in enforcement and implementation of these laws to ensure accessibility for persons with disabilities is inadequate. The transport infrastructure itself often does not meet the minimum needs of persons with disabilities in the form of uneven pavements, poorly marked crosswalks, and a lack of tactile paving, which makes it difficult for those with visual impairments to navigate safely. Now, my City Dial ride in Cape Town only caters for 350 passengers, yet the service is oversubscribed.
Honorable Noluchungu, isikhathi sesiphelile ma'am.
The economic freedom fighters therefore correctly rejects the budget that still fails to address the inequalities that have existed for more than 30 years and continues to ignore and neglect the immediate fundamental problems of our country. Thank you.